in hurt or fear before I build that wall of words. Tell me, did I really hear? Words are windows or they're walls. They sentence us or set us free. When I speak and when I hear, let the love light shine through me. There are things I need to say, things that mean so much to me. If my words don't make me clear, will you help me to be free? If I seem to put you down, if you felt I didn't care, try to listen through my words to the feelings that we share. These are beautiful words, and they come to us from a poet and singer, an activist in the 1970s named Ruth Biedermeier. And they encapsulate very well nonviolent communication, or NVC. For nonviolent communication is merely a simple language. It's a language of life, according to its founder, Marshall Rosenberg. It's a language of empathy, compassion, trying to get through the words, whether they be windows or walls, and to go right to the actual meaning. What's behind the words? What's alive in us? What's living there? How are we really? And how can we get there? And so my presentation today, Elizabeth, you can switch to the next slide, please. I'd like to give you some takeaways. Essentially, I'd like to give you a few words about what is NVC, to briefly describe it, to talk a little bit about how it works, to conduct a small experiment that you yourselves can take away if you feel so compelled or so desirous of that. And you can ponder these things. You can take these things and ponder them in your hearts and in your minds. At the end of it all, a quick wrap up to see where we are and how can we go forward. So Elizabeth, if you could do the next slide. It's a very simple language that consists of observations, feelings, needs, and requests. And you can read about it if you like at the Center for Nonviolent Communication, which information I will share with you how to get to. You can also find it in the book, A Language of Life by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. And you see that observations are merely facts. They're things that actually occurred. They're not judgments of what happened, really. They're just observations. And actually, that's a pretty powerful place to start, because an observation is what we see, it's what we hear, it's what we feel. It's not what we feel, rather, it's what we sense through our actual senses. Right? Sense is not feelings. Feelings are something a little bit different. But feelings are part and parcel of the nonviolent communication language model. So we have observations originally. Oh, then we have feelings. And what are the feelings? What are our feelings when we're satisfied? What are our feelings when we're dissatisfied? And when we talk about feelings, we don't say, I feel that you did something. That's not a feeling. That's a statement. You know, I feel that you're wrong. Well, no. Feelings are things that we actually do feel. So we can often use an adjective. I feel delighted. I feel disappointed, right? When our meetings are, when our needs are dissatisfied or unfulfilled. I feel affectionate tonight, right? Feelings are also fleeting. Feelings are merely signposts to what's alive. They're merely indicators. And sadly, many of us get caught up in the feelings. We don't take the time to ponder what's really alive in us. And so I've listed a few feelings under here, and there are resources and feelings lists and things that you can get at the Center for Nonviolent Communication. Actually, James may have shared some of those files in the chat. You can take these away. But feelings are merely pointers to needs, and needs are universal to all humans, wherever you are, whether you're in Boston or Bahrain, whether you're in Algonquin territory or you know, territory of the Mi'kmaq, wherever you are in the world. When you're human, you have needs. And here are some of the needs. Needs for autonomy, right? Needs for clarity, for understanding. Needs for love. Love isn't a feeling, love is a need. That's a different concept in nonviolent communication. And then lastly, very simply, how do we make the requests to fulfill our need? I feel annoyed that you've lost the remote to the TV set. I have a need to have my things where I can see them, right? So I don't know what that need that might be, but that could be a need. And then the request, when we find it, would you be willing to keep it right by the television from now on? Thanks. Pretty simple. Anyway, how does it work? Observations, feelings, needs, and requests. And this is something that you can take away. So in the interest of time, we'll continue to the next slide, Elizabeth. Yeah, and I'd like to engage in a small experiment with the time that we have left. So I put a few kinds of areas in which nonviolent communication can be used. And James, I think you had suggested one. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the email, but do you remember what you suggested to us?
Well, I know that one of the things I had in mind was dealing with somebody who's in a situation of complete denial.
Ah, right.
So they're
That's
not accepting what others accept as facts around a topic like climate change or
Sure.
the efficacy of vaccinations, which
Sure.
are full of nuance and changeable. So there's a controversial topic.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And
no, that's fine.
Person A doesn't accept the factual premise in the
All right.
start of your chain there.
All right. Well, in fact, how I came to learn about nonviolent communication was through the work of Johns Hopkins University. And I took some training about COVID tracing. And often the people would have to call up and they would get somebody who would say, no, that's bullshit. You know, what are you talking about? COVID doesn't exist. So that can be triggering, right? And if you do have a little bit of training in nonviolent communication, you can try to detect. You can certainly make the observation, this person is obviously unhappy, about something. So then what you try to do is through your observation, you go, well, sir, I hear you that we're talking about this, and this is really something that's important for you. And then you try to get them to speak it, get them to talk for 3 hours if you have the time and inclination. Get them to talk, get them to say what is exactly going on when you see the feelings, when you detect all these feelings of dissatisfaction. Is it a feeling for safety? Or rather, a need for safety? Is it a need for security? Is it a need for clarity? What is the need? Right? Don't just stop at the feeling, because the feeling is never going to get you anywhere. But when you look through the words, look through the feelings all the way into the needs, then you can make a request. And the request can be very simple. It can be a simple, it's what we call in Toastmasters a call to action. But the call to action needs to be something that's very specific, very doable, and very consonant with the need of the interlocutor, of the person to whom you're speaking. So in the case of a climate denier, we can ask them to think about their favorite fishing hole. We can ask them to think about their cottage on the lake. We can ask them what are their needs, and go and identify, and then identify the actual incontrovertible fact of the climate change or of whatever is landing with it. I better stop here, and because my time is almost up, but I'd like to open the floor to people for questions, for comments, for anything like that. It's open floor. You can unmute and tell us how you feel and what's up with you.
And could we stop the screen share? And that, I think, will help
I was just going to ask what.
make that easier.
Yeah, that would be great, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Not a
Yeah.
problem.
And
Let's have a
before,
round of applause, first of all, for Alex.
well,
Thanks so
you.
much for sharing those ideas. And I'll stop the recording so that people feel free to offer their observations.
Brilliant. Before we